can we talk about the chubby unicorn?
The chubby, the Rhino.
The Rhino.
Everyone loves the Rhino.
Yeah, the chubby unicorn. And actually, one of the facts that Sam had shared, your sister had shared, was that they live differently. The white rhino and the black rhino lives differently. I didn't know that. Can either be like lone wolf, solitary creatures, or live in herds, which I was amazed about. I didn't know that the animals...
Slightly smaller herds than buffalo.
Yeah. Yeah. But I really like the unicorn analogy, because we talk all the time, don't we, about finding unicorns.
Yeah,
we've talked about this in our, in the things we've written for LinkedIn, the articles we've written for LinkedIn, but we've also talked about it internally. I often think businesses are now under so much pressure, especially financially, because markets are not great, potentially. They might not be succeeding. Therefore, they need to make decisions about hires or people and looking for perfect solutions. So I suppose it's not so much of an analogy about how they live, rhinos, but more a case of calling them a unicorn, a chubby unicorn, and what a unicorn is for business, right? So should we start there? Looking for perfection, maybe. What do you call perfection?
Perfection is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point. We see so often in a number of the clients that we work with, and what we're trying to encourage a slightly different thought process is, don't wait until it's 99% there and then go earlier, because you will learn on that journey. Whether that's 80%, 70%, you can decide. It depends how important it is, how much risk is attached to it, how much income is attached to it, or cost is attached to it. You may say, actually, it's 51% ready. Let's go. But equally, if you're launching a space rocket, it probably needs to be closer to 100%. So it really depends on what your service
what you're building
is.
And what you're servicing.
What are you trying to do there? But I think,
or how public your crash might be.
But perfection, can be around your products, can be around your services, can be the talent that you're trying to hire. It's like, I'm not going to hire that role until I find that perfect person, and a year later you're still looking for that perfect person. And there's risk attached with not doing, there's risk attached with doing, and I think it's just weighing that up. And I think the observation that we made when we talked this through was that a lot of entrepreneurial businesses will err on the side of waiting for it to be closer to, probably too close to being a 100% solution, when actually a 90, 80, 70% solution would be good enough to actually get some momentum, get some movement forward. And as you get that momentum, you will learn and things will change. We talked earlier about what's changing around us, whether it's technology, politics, tax, whatever. So what you need now may be quite different to what you need in 6 months, 12 months, 3 years' time. To me, there's zero point in trying to look for that perfect solution that fits the mold right now, because that need is going to be different anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to be different tomorrow. It's going to be different next week, next month. So I guess the learning that our observation is that there tends to be a tendency to try and hold on and drive towards perfection. And perfection is not always a bad thing. Quality is great, but perfection can be the enemy of good. And sometimes good is good enough.
It's good enough. Yeah, you're so right. And actually, the inability or the desire to not make the wrong decision and then therefore make no decision, that's the worst decision. Make a decision. To Roger Federer's point, if it turns out to be a point lost, you're moving on, right? And you've got to learn and move on. And I think we see that procrastination a lot in business. We see people really fearful because resources are tight, the environment's changing. What decision do you make? Because it's got to be right. I've only got a finite amount of resources. And that really, I suppose, is about where we come in, handhold and say, make a decision. It's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to fail. This might not be the best idea, but no idea, no movement.
It's even worse.
It's even worse. Yeah. And you're not going to evolve. You're not going to change. So I think we talked a lot, didn't we, about trying to find your unicorn, whether it's a real unicorn or it's a rhino chubby unicorn. But you might not find it, or you might find it where you're not looking, right? But you won't if you're not on the move. We also talked yesterday about a unicorn valuation. You know, we talked about in old money terms,
the $1 billion organization, the enterprise value, and it's some people are looking to create unicorns. They want that $1 billion valuations, but most are not looking. That doesn't define success for them. And I think the takeout there is be clear on what success is for you. If you're an owner in a business, a key stakeholder in that business, what does success look like for the business? What does it look like for its people? What does it look like for the shareholders? What does it look like for the staff? What does it look like for its customers? What does success look like in that? And that might be purpose-driven. It might be charitable. It might be valuation-driven. Yeah, we must get that $1 billion valuation, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that. But I think, to me, the learning is clarity. And if you're going on a journey, then you really want a sat nav that gives you the options around how you can get there. But if you don't have a clear destination in mind, it's very difficult for a sat nav to give you a route.
Well, Kim's got a good saying for that, haven't you, Kim? With the you have to put the words here for me, fill the gaps, but a strategy without...
Oh, yes. A strategy without a plan is a dream.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. You pointed out today, a strategy without a plan can be a dream or a nightmare.
Yeah.
So you pick which one. Yeah. Actually, you need a plan. You need a plan.
You do need a plan. And actually, I suppose, you talk about the $1 billion valuation or £1 billion valuation, right? And I think there's a lot of perfectionism caught up in the way we live our lives, right? On social media, and we see these hugely successful businesses. We see huge amounts of money being made. We've got our first trillionaire in the world, and we are all striving to be successful, but success comes in different ways.
I listened to a podcast the other day, and it was a lady that was being interviewed, and her background was she actually studied generations and behaviors of generations, and why, a lot of people actually employ her to come into businesses and solve people issues. I'm an owner and I'm, in X generation or whatever, and going, I don't understand why my team doesn't get my language. Why don't they, work as hard as I worked? Why aren't they doing the things that I did when I was their age at the start of my career? And it was all of this real insight that she provided around the different generations that are in the workplace at the moment, and how, what each generation effectively wants from their career. Now, go back, even if you go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you have even longer, you have the story that your parents told you. You need to finish school with good grades. You need to go to university and study something. You need to be something like a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, something. And then you can buy a house and a car and go on holiday and. And how the world has evolved and shifted across the last few decades is that used to be the dream, and that used to be the roadmap to get to where you are as a teenager, to where you possibly want to be.
Define success, yeah.
Define success. But today's world, success looks different. Maybe people don't want to own their home, and also the average salary nowadays, you can't buy a home. You can't have a car and a home and go on holiday and have a one-income household.
No.
Exactly. So, when we were speaking about, a unicorn business being that valuation at $1 billion, my counter to that was, is the unicorn of a business defined as $1 billion outdated? And is there a new era and a new world that the unicorn business looks different? And I think that ties really nicely into giving business owners, leaders of businesses, the opportunity to define their North Star. What is their, unicorn? Who or what do they want to be in today's society and in today's community? How do they want to contribute to those that show up at work? What is that unicorn or that North Star for them? And then how do you execute that? And how do you actually get a plan in place, so you have a direction of travel, but you also know, Do you need a boat? Do you need good walking shoes? You definitely need water. You probably need good food.
Torch.
You need a torch. You need a fire because you're going to be camping somewhere and shelter. You need all of these things to go to your North Star. But if you don't know if you're hiking a mountain or you in a boat and you're rowing, you actually can't build your plan. So it really is about understanding, what is my North Star? What is the unicorn of the business world today that I want to create? And how do I get there? And how do I bring my leadership team on that journey? And how do I cascade that down so they know what part they're playing in that journey? That gives everybody a sense of purpose, and also you attract the right people to your business. I believe in that North Star. I believe in the role I play in that. I'm going to stay.
I think defining the new unicorn is a brilliant challenge for any business. And you can then shape what you want and build what you want, and it doesn't have to be what everybody else has got or claiming they've got. Success comes in different forms.
The final thought on rhinos is that people who've studied rhinos know that their sight is very poor. So rhino sight, they can't see you until you're close up. And when you bump into a rhino, they react very aggressively.
How dare you be here?
Yeah. Where the hell did you come from? So again, it's that analogy building what you're saying there, Kim. It's that foresight. Don't be the rhino. Be a rhino who's got the glasses on, can actually see where they're going.
Big lenses.
Yeah. and again, it's we're often going into businesses who are brilliant at what they do, but they're focusing on the here and the now and the today and the tomorrow. And we look to encourage, it's like, let's raise the horizon a little bit. What's going to happen next month, next quarter?
We're going to be your challenger, your coach. Let's talk about how we get you.
Yeah.
We get you there.
What does define success?
Yeah.
And how are we going to go there? And what's the plan? And what are the alternatives? Yeah. What investments is that going to require? What risk mitigation is that going to require? So let's not be short-sighted and just reactive just because we've got a load of armor on our back and think we're indestructible.
And some horns up front.
Some horns up front, hopefully.
With a unicorn.
But I think that analogy of the rhino and a business and what a business can learn from the rhino is really important around that North Star. What does success look like?
For you.
Yeah, and how can you plan and have foresight to get there?